Hello and welcome to the first episode of the F1 Pitcast. Joining me today are our F1 pit crew. We've got Grant. How are you, Grant?
Yeah, you all right, mate? All good?
Fantastic, Grant. And then we've got Laura. How you doing, Laura?
Hey, I'm very good, thank you. Very happy to be here and getting involved with Formula One before the season starts this year.
Smashing, Laura. So as we are, the F1 Pitcast, we're a new podcast for Formula One, by the fans, for the fans, giving a fan's perspective on the races, the drivers. Obviously, today we'll be doing our season preview, and we're really looking forward to sort of speaking for the fans and speaking with the fans. So we'll fly straight on into it. So we'll start from the back of the grid, and we'll start with the Williams F1 team. And I'm going to have a quick bite at the livery. For me personally, it was probably the most surprising livery that I saw this year. Obviously, we've got the new liveries of Alpine and Aston Martin, but I don't think many people expected Williams to sort of have a return to the 90s feel. Obviously, they've got the blue. They haven't got many sponsors, but it's a really nice design. Obviously, we know I had the trouble when they were trying to launch it via the app, and they had a little bit of trouble with that. But no, as a fan, I'm really excited to see what Williams have got to offer this year, and I think their livery really shows a step in the right direction. Looking towards the drivers, Laura, what are your takes on Williams this season?
So we've got Latifi and George again this year. Obviously, Latifi signed a 3-year contract, which ends at the end of 2022. So he was a rookie last year, and he wasn't able to support George as much as that we'd hoped to. So hopefully, I'd like to see him getting up a little bit more, getting involved in the action, and getting his race times up a little bit. In regards to George, now this is what everybody's excited and looking for. Everyone did want him to replace Lewis, I think, in Mercedes. However, he still got his contract that wouldn't be released by Williams, so he is still in the Williams car. Now, I want to see him pushing his performance this year, and I want to see him. I want to hopefully the car to give him that little bit more performance, because we know what he can do when he has got that car in front of him. So I'm hoping to see him push the middle of a pack a couple of times this year. That's where I'd like to see him going. But with Latifi, I'd like to see him helping his teammates out a little bit more as well.
No, fantastic. It's a really interesting dynamic with Williams, because you can sort of see both drivers moving on at the end of the year, but then you can also see both of them staying. So it's really weird to look at it as a fan perspective and try and work out where they're going to be heading. Will Russell head to Mercedes? Will Latifi lose his seat? Will Russell stay at Williams? Will Latifi stay at Williams? There's a lot to be sort of be played for and decided there. And then go on, Laura.
Yeah, well, Latifi's in for next year as well, so he's got all the big changes. Russell hasn't signed for next year as yet, so we don't know where he's going to go. But Latifi will have the big changes with Williams, and we could see Williams back up the top of the pack again, because there's going to be so many technical changes with the car that it could change the dynamic completely. But it'd be interesting to see them both working together again this year, and I want to see Russell a little bit further up the pack, and I want to see Latifi helping out. But
oh, fantastic. And especially with the increase on the Mercedes partnership, obviously they've got the new Mercedes gearbox as well. You've kind of got to feel they'll be working their way forward. Grant, obviously with that, where do you see Williams ending this season, or how do you see them getting on this?
Just behind the front three, I reckon. I mean, they'll be pushing a lot harder to try and keep Russell. I think they'll work a little bit harder to try and keep him. It's probably a gone conclusion that he's going to move, but I think it'll push him a bit more, knowing they've got a really good young driver like that to push him forward.
No, fantastic. And then working our way up the grid, and I don't want to say the most controversial team, but it's very difficult to look for controversy anywhere else other than the Haas Formula One team. And obviously we'll get on to why. Actually, we'll get on straight away to why they're controversial. We'll start with the livery, Laura. Obviously everyone's seen it. What do you think?
Well, it's the Russian flag, isn't it, really? So I think they've got away with it because Uralkali have basically changed their F1 side of the company. They changed the logo the day before the livery was released. Otherwise, they could have been in a bit of trouble with the FIA. And I think it's here to stay. I think they're going to keep that. And obviously, Uralkali is also owned by Mazepin's dad. So they're getting the sponsor from the driver's father as well. And to be fair, we don't really like the paid drivers being in there. It doesn't add to the motorsport for me anyway. I think people should work their way up rather than paying to be in there. But there we go. That's my opinion. But yes, so we've got the Russian flag on the car, which is not really the Russian flag apparently. But it's a different design. It's a very unique design. And I'm looking forward to seeing what they can do this year. However, they haven't had any development. So, and they've come out and said that. So I'm not expecting them to be much further up the pack of when they were, and if anything, I expect them to be a little bit further back. But yeah, there we go.
No, it is weird. Obviously, I don't think anyone really anticipated that kind of delivery. Now it's happened, it makes sense. But obviously there's a story that the World Anti-Doping Association are looking into it, but I don't really know how much you can do.
Hang on, why are they looking into that?
I think it's due to, so there was a situation a few years back where Russian athletes wouldn't be allowed to use the Russian flag to compete under.
It was alleged that the Russian government had set this up. Yeah.
So obviously Nikita Mazda is a Russian driver, so I don't actually know what flag he was driving under. I think it was just a neutral flag. So obviously they've sort of gone in and said, well, he can't drive under a Russian flag, so let's have him drive under a Russian car, which obviously for an American team is. He's
a good driver though. He's actually a really good driver. I mean, he won like seven races last season.
No, yes,
he's a good driver, but I think we can. I think we have maybe differences on whether he's a good person, on whether he should be representing a Formula One team, considering what he's done and considering that it's all been brushed under the carpet. I don't think he should be there, and I think many followers and fans of Formula One feel the same as well.
No, so with Haas, we've got two drivers. We've got one that's probably really liked and one that's very controversial. We'll start with we'll go with Nikita Mazda. Let's start with the controversy. Obviously, Grant Law, you've both got opinions. What are our thoughts on Nikita Mazepin as a Haas F1 driver?
Like I said, I think he's a good young driver. He's got a few wins under his belt. I didn't actually know about the controversy. That's what I was a bit surprised about. I haven't heard about that. Last season, he did get 12 points on his licence, so he does like a bit of a challenge and a fight and a bit of a dodgy left-right turn, I think. So he's an interesting one to watch. I think he's going to upset a few of the front runners when he gets past a few times, and I think he's going to probably cause a bit of trouble. But it'd be interesting to watch when he does get lapped, because, like I said, he got 12 points last season, so he was on a ban near enough. So
I'd agree with you. He's going to cause controversy. I'd agree with that. I don't know whether it's a good thing.
It could be in the front runners when they try and pass him and that, and they'll be a bit more wary of him. And then obviously his teammate, everyone knows, Mick Schumacher. I mean, I think that's going to be a great one.
30 years ago, his dad started. 30 years ago, his dad came into Formula One, and now he is in Formula One this year. And he said it's such a proud moment that he is here. And yeah, we are looking forward to seeing Mick Schumacher on the track.
Everyone feels old because they got some kid who joined, and his dad's raced. Yeah, this is crazy. I watched Formula One when I was 6 years old, so that's crazy.
Yep.
It is weird to try and predict where Haas are going to go, because obviously you've got Nikita Mazepin. Obviously, as we discussed, and I'm sure many people will agree, he'll be one of the most controversial drivers on track and off track. I think his off track reputation.
But let's be fair to him as well. He is a new driver. He's coming to the sport. He's got to behave himself, because he can't come in and do start crashing into people, hitting people. But let's see where he goes with it.
Yeah, they'll stick a liaison officer with him and tell him what he can and can't say on social media.
100%.
He'll get told what he can and can't say, and he'll be a good boy in that sense. I think like I said, his racing is going to be interesting.
No, I agree. And I think his off-track reputation, I think that's at a point, especially with a major part of the F1 audience, I think it's at a point now where I don't think that will ever be repaired. So he's got to do his talking on the track. And obviously, as you put it out, Grant, he does like to do his talking on the track, just not necessarily in the right ways. But then on the other side of Haas, you've got Mick Schumacher. I don't want to call him, he's not a future world champion yet, but there's an awful
he's the dream boy of Formula One now.
He is, and
that's it.
There's the romance, obviously, with his dad, and obviously the amazing career his dad had, but obviously how unfortunate the past few years, obviously his dad's not able to be there trackside on the pits, and I think it's a weird one, because he's got all the pressure of being the son of one of the two most successful Formula One drivers ever.
He'll drive him and prove it, won't he? He'll drive it and prove it. And I could see him getting a sneaky, bit of bad weather in a race and some cars getting whacked, and Haas getting a funny, cheeky little win or something. Not a win, but a podium finish or something. And you could see him doing it.
100%. They got Grosjean and Magnussen both scored a point last year. There'd be nothing to rule out. I think. And I don't feel sorry for Mick, because I think I do in one way, because he's got the pressure of being the son of Michael, of being the son of,
Yeah, but he's coming at a team that's not got expectation. So in that sense, it's sort of taking it off of him.
One of them. And then obviously when predicting, I don't know where on earth. I think a lot of people are seeing him at the back of the grid, and I don't think that's wrong. But I think if Mick, obviously you can argue Nikita, but I think if Mick has a good year, how far away is a Ferrari seat? Because I think we can all agree he'll probably end up there. If he has a good year now, will he end up there next year? Will he end up there in 2? I don't.
Or he could end up in one of the other cars with the Ferrari engines, and we've got a few of them this year. So yeah.
Yeah, and that is a brilliant way actually of getting on to one of the others, Alfa Romeo. Obviously, Grant, what are your thoughts on the Alfa Romeo livery this year?
Just a little bit more of what colour? I can't remember what colour it was. White. It's really all I wrote. I just don't really like the Alfa Romeo to look at. It's nothing special, is it?
It's been a bit for a few years.
Yeah.
They've sort of flipped the colours, haven't they, this year?
Yeah, it's a little bit more of one colour.
No, it is. It is a weird one to talk about, but I mean, the drivers of it. I tend to find the drivers are quite easy to talk about because it's one of the very few teams that have actually kept their lineup. Obviously, with Mercedes and Williams. I was having a look earlier. So obviously, last season, Kimi Raikkonen, he beat Giovinazzi 10 times. So Giovinazzi beating him 4 times. But I look at both drivers, and obviously Raikkonen. This will probably be his last season, if not. He hasn't got many years left in the tank. I think he's just doing it at this point because he loves it. And I mean, you can't blame him. I think he just enjoys the sport, and that's why he's doing it. And then Giovinazzi, he's a Ferrari junior, but I don't know how many people out there can actually see him ending up in a Ferrari. Obviously, you've got Mick Schumacher, you've got Callum Ilott, you've got what was the other lad? Callum Ilott, Mick Schumacher, and
I think Leclerc's got about 7 or 8 years in him yet at Ferrari.
Yeah. And then we'll get onto Ferrari later, but if Carlos Sainz has a good year, then I don't think Giovinazzi. I think this potentially, if he doesn't deliver this year, and I think it's going to be difficult in that car. I think this could be one of his final rides in form.
Yeah, I think he really needs to pull it out the bag this year if he wants to go somewhere else within Formula One. I think when I think Alfa Romeo, without being rude to them, I think, well, that's bland. There's never really any excitement with Alfa Romeo, which can be great in Formula One. It means they don't hit each other, they don't crash, they don't cause problems. But at the same time, they don't win, they don't get up there, they don't fight. And that's what we want to see in Formula One. And they're just sort of sat towards the back of the pack. And we need to see a little bit more from them. However, this year they have got it's the last year of the Honda engine that they've got in this year. So Honda, as we know, is leaving for 2022, so they're not going to be here. So what they've done is all the updates that they were working on for 2022, they have put in this year's engine. So we could have a little bit of a shock on our hands here between the two teams that have got this engine, because Alfa could be way up the top if they've got these extra settings or extra development on their engines that nobody else has got. Who knows? They could do them really, really well.
I think we've flown from Alfa Romeo to Alfa Tauri there, haven't we? But it's a good.
Oh yes, it's Alfa Tauri, not Alfa Romeo. That's the one. Oh, that's a shame, isn't it?
When you said Honda, I was like, they using Honda. I was checking my notes. I was like, I didn't realise they'd changed.
Well, I think that proves my point a little bit, maybe, doesn't it? Like Alfa Romeo, we've not really got a lot to say on them, and I think they need to pull it up a little bit, because we don't really know a lot about them, and there's nothing there to them.
They sell cars. Well, under Ferrari. That's about it, really, isn't it?
You've got the midfield battle, and then obviously you've got Alfa Tauri, and as you've just said, no one really knows where they're going to end up. We've got the controversy of Haas. We've got obviously a lot of people are really rooting for George Russell this year. And then apart from the obviously the fun and excitement of Kimi Raikkonen, there's not really much to say. And you've said that. No. I'm not really saying much. It's understandable.
And the Honda engine's not even there. So
no, on the Honda engine, obviously we'll look at the second team of the Honda engine, the Alfa Tauri. We'll start the livery. I'll be honest, I do like this one. I think it's a weird way to describe it, but it's a really neat livery. It's smart. One thing I do know is they've written the Alfa Tauri, the word Alfa Tauri on it quite a lot. But I kind of feel like if you're going to sponsor a Honda team, you're probably going to go to Red Bull. So that's not surprising. The driver race suits we've got this year, I do really like. And no, it's a really smart, nice livery. Obviously, with the drivers, Laura, how do they look for you this year? Yuki Tsunoda and Pierre Gasly.
Yeah, so we've got Gasly, and I'm looking forward to seeing him push a little bit more this year as well. He's always been one of those. His talent in driving is absolutely incredible, but he's never really got up to where he needs to get to. And obviously, being put in the Red Bull was not ideal for anyone, for a lot of drivers anyway. But down in AlphaTauri, where he is, he's been really consistently driving really, really well. So I want to see him push the top end of the middle this year, and I want him to see sort of fighting again when he's back up that Red Bull stage. When he started fighting with those Red Bulls again, that was him showing his true driving there, and I want to see him there. Obviously, we've got a new driver again, Yuki Tsunoda. He's obviously new to Formula One this year. He's incredible in Formula 2, but obviously the cars are incredibly slower than they are in Formula One. So it's going to take his time getting used to the car and working his way up, like most new drivers do when we see him in there. But it would be interesting to see how he does. And I would like to see him helping Gasly. I think we need a little bit more teamwork going on this year, not just from the top teams, but from all of them as well, because I don't think we've seen that so much in the last couple of years. I think we've seen a lot more fighting rather than helping the teammates out how it should be done within the team. I don't like, obviously, team orders and anything like that, but at the same time, you need to work together to be a successful Formula One team to get the constructors, really. So, yeah, it'd be interesting to see those two driving together. Gasly should definitely be up there for me. I think his talent's incredible.
I rate them. I think they're going to be a surprise one this season. I really do. I think that, like, as a delivery looks good. They changed it mainly from white to blue, so it looks good. I rate it. I rate the team. I tell you what, if you want a nice coat as well, they do a nice coat for about 600 quid. I bet you didn't know that, though. Did you know AlphaTauri make clothes?
Not.
I did.
No,
I
had no idea.
I didn't know how expensive they were.
Yeah, I didn't know that. I knew they made clothes, but I didn't know there was 600 quid a coat. But
They get your coats in now, because if AlphaTauri are up the top this year, the prices will be going up. So
If AlphaTauri do listen to the podcast and do make it top, we'll have some advertising rights from that little promotion there. But no, Grant,
we'll model the coats for them.
Yeah, I love a coat. I love a coat. Got loads of coats.
What are you expecting from AlphaTauri this year, Grant? And obviously, said you want.
I think they come 7th last season. I think 5th. Fifth is good. It's an improvement. I can see it.
No, and
Honda's been going for a while. Yeah, I like it. I think they're going the right way. And I think they're one team that did actually make an effort releasing their car, which a few other teams didn't even bother, really.
I do agree. I think a lot of teams said, "Oh, we'll just do it next Tuesday or something," because it's all online. There's no. It's sort of like, yeah, we'll upload some photos. But it's weird, and obviously you say AlphaTauri, you want to see them moving up good to 5th. Obviously, because our next team, who finished 6th last year and quite poorly, really, with the Ferraris. For AlphaTauri to go to 5th, teams like Ferrari are also likely going to be moving up the grid. So there's the top 7 this year. It could be a really good battle.
I don't see Ferrari progressing at all, if I'm honest. I think they've got to get used to the lineup. I think Leclerc's going to probably very quickly appear to be driver number 1, and they'll probably back him, which, they have every right to, I think. But I can't see Ferrari progressing, especially with what was going on in Italy and the backlog of work that they had to deal with and stuff, because they got put on hold. I think next season you'll see a Ferrari that will be a lot in every single front, even aerodynamics. But this season, I think Ferrari's probably going to be another write-off.
No, I can, and I was going to ask you about the livery, but there's absolutely nothing for you to say about the liveries.
I've got a bit. There's a bit. We don't know what it looks like yet. So obviously it's released on the 10th of March. So we've got a couple of days to wait. Obviously, by the time this goes out, we'll have the livery. So you'll be able to correct us on what we're saying. But is it going to be matte again? Because they lost the weight by using the matte paint last year. So is it going to be matte, or are they going to go back to the normal red? Because I'm not keen on that matte colour. I think it makes the car look too orange. So I'd like to see the dark red come back again for me. But one thing on Ferrari is I think they will do quite well this year, because they have done some changes, and they actually get 12.5% longer in the wind tunnel compared to Mercedes because of where they finished last year. Now, aero is so important this year, and the new floors are so important, that I think that would give them a perfect opportunity to make sure that they are ready for this year, and that they know and they can change things moving forward over the year. I think that's that's going to give them a benefit, definitely. And I just don't think Ferrari don't want to be down in that point. They've already come out and said they don't want to be down there. They are aiming to be back up at the top where they're supposed to be, and they're not going to let it go. So I think we are going to see some things from Ferrari. Whether they're going to be up at the top 3, I'm not sure, but I don't think they'll be up there quite. But I think they're definitely going to improve over the year.
No, lovely. And then obviously we've heard about Charles. Grant, have you got any thoughts on Carlos? Where's Carlos Sainz to put that car?
I think it was a great business move. If I'm honest with you, I think he did all right where he was. It was just because it's a Ferrari, I think. Yeah, I ain't got much to add of it. It'll be interesting to see that if he likes playing second fiddle as well, because he eventually will, after 6-7 races, he'll be second fiddle, and I don't think he'll like it. I mean, he's a good racer. I'm not knocking him, obviously, but I think Leclerc is going to be their number 1 driver. I mean, he's a lot quicker in that car. He's used to it. Like, they won't share information between them. They're not like McLaren in that sense. So yeah, it'd be very competitive. I think it might backfire on him a little bit. I think it's a payday for him a little bit, and it's a Ferrari.
I don't know if Sainz will want to sit in second place, but I think obviously he's going to be contracted to sit in second place because Leclerc is contracted as the first place. So it'll be interesting to see them race together, and Sainz proving himself. I know he's rather excited. The plethora of colours that Sainz has used and worn over the years as he's made through his career, it'd be interesting to see him in the Ferrari, definitely.
Oh, definitely. Then with Carlos, it's not make or break, in my opinion. But as you say about the contracts, he'll sign as a second driver. If he kicks on, if he has a brilliant start to the season, those contracts can be very easily switched around, and all of a sudden, we're saying, could he be a future F1 champ? But then on the flip side of that is if he gets beaten badly. I know obviously Sebastian Vettel last season, he got beaten quite a lot by Charles, but because he's Sebastian Vettel, it's not going to knock him. But if Carlos suffers a similar fate, that might be his one chance at a top team gone, and it could be gone after a season if other drivers like Mick Schumacher, or looking down the grid, I don't really know who I've seen a Ferrari at the moment, but if other drivers have a good season, this might be his one shot. So
but at the same time, if we think about who they've got at the moment, they want Leclerc to stay with them. So if we've got a driver who is up the top with the number 1 driver, but is sitting there with them and working as a team, then there is an opportunity for him to stay there for a significant period of time. Because if he benefits Ferrari, then they're going to be higher up in the Constructors' Championship. He doesn't need to be winning against him, but if he resigns himself to sitting behind the number 1 driver, which I don't think he's going to do, but if he does, then it could benefit them all round.
Well, it's similar to obviously the Kimi Raikkonen and Sebastian Vettel partnership, where Vettel was clearly your number 1 driver, but Raikkonen was able to put the car up there, and then on the days Vettel didn't perform, Raikkonen was able to win. Obviously, we saw him win at USA in 2018. I think that was his final race win, but he's able to put the car up there.
And that's exactly what you need from a driver, from both of your drivers. Yeah.
But with predicting Ferrari, I was looking at it earlier, and in my opinion, they can finish anywhere from 2nd to 7th. And I think they'll be higher.
That's called sitting on the fence, that is.
It is. If I had to say,
it could come second to last.
I think they'll finish 4th behind the Martin. That's what I think. But then again,
I think last year was a bit of sting for them, to be honest, and I think they'll be pushing hard for this year, definitely.
But then again, if I say that, you've got McLaren and Alpine, and that does bring us on to our next team. Obviously, the team formerly known as Renault F1. Obviously, Grant, what are your thoughts on Alpine? Obviously, it's a completely new livery. How does it look to you?
It was amazing. I watched the advert. It was the best advert I've ever seen for a car. It's nice as well. It was so good. Was it tri-coloured French flag, which is what you say is like a Russian flag. It's sort of like similar colours but different sequence. If you look at a picture of it, I think I love it. Watch the advert. It's great. I was blown away by the advert, to be honest with you, just for a Formula 1 car. It's better than putting a sheet over a car and then standing next to it, which is what you kind of get these days. And they went to town with it.
No, it was.
Have you watched it?
I haven't actually. I've seen the photos. I didn't have time to watch it, but I did see the photos, and I love the sort of the metal blue.
It's
they've got.
Great looking colour.
I really like it.
Yeah,
but
definitely one of the better looking ones on the grid.
And then just looking at the drivers, this is a weird dynamic to me. Obviously, you've got Esteban Ocon, his second season with Alpine or Renault. Renault never tend to keep drivers for 2 seasons. I don't think they have actually since they came back to Formula 1. And Ocon, obviously, he's a Mercedes junior. He had a podium last year, had a great second place finish. He was probably quite comfortably beaten by Daniel Ricciardo, but he had a good season. But then I look at that and I think you've got Fernando Alonso. Obviously, we saw what happened with McLaren when Alonso was there. It sort of became Team Fernando. And you kind of think if it becomes Team Fernando this time round, is that going to benefit or is that not going to, is that going to have a negative effect on the team? I don't know. If Ocon beats Alonso, you know, all of a sudden you're thinking, well, he's Mercedes junior driver. He's just beaten a two-time world champion. Could he be put in the Mercedes car for 2022? But then on the flip side of that is if Alonso beats him well, then it's like, well, where do you go from there? So with the drivers, I don't know. It's a weird dynamic. I don't think Alonso and I don't think they'll get on. Obviously, we know Ocon's had issues with Max Verstappen before. We know he's had issues with Sergio Perez before.
Alonso's going for the big three again, isn't he, as well?
Yeah, I think, yeah. And I think Alonso, he's in a car that has genuine podium potential, which he didn't have at McLaren. I don't think he's got race winning potential, but he could definitely put it up there. So
a few accidents here, there, and that. Yeah.
Yeah, well, you saw last year. Obviously, we had it in Monza, we had it at Sakhir, whereby different drivers are winning races. And obviously, with that, Laura, what do you think, or what's your prediction of the Alpine F1 team?
I honestly think these are ones to look out for. I love the design, absolutely fantastic, but I think it's a mean-looking livery, mean-looking design to the car as well. Looks very, very slimline. One thing I did notice while looking at the pictures, more noticeably than anyone else, is that they've got very similar bulges to the power unit, like Mercedes have also got. So I'm wondering what they have got underneath their covers there, because they've had to make those changes in the bodywork to fit those power units in. So it will be interesting to see. I do think with the new floor, with everything, how they've produced the car, I think they might be, they're definitely ones to look out for. It'll be interesting to see how they actually do. Like you said, with the dynamic of the drivers, I'm not too sure. Alonso, doesn't like playing second fiddle anyway, does he? So I think there's going to be a massive battle between both of them, from what we've seen in the past with Alonso as well. Yeah, I'm excited to see how these go. They've got the same units as last year, but like I said, those bulges in the bodywork, are they for the power unit? Are they for aero? We don't really know at the moment. We've been told that for other cars it's to fit the power unit in, but considering they've got the same power unit as they had last year from Renault, I'm not sure why they've got those in there, unless there is something else different that we don't know about at the moment, and I'm sure we'll see it on next weekend on testing.
No, fantastic. And that brings the end to part one of our season preview. In the second part, we'll be making our way through the rest of the grid, and we'll do some quick fire predictions.
Formula One
so
Pitcast.
Stay tuned.
So far, we've gone from the back of the grid all the way up to the Alpine F1 team, and now it's time to have a look at a lot of people's not favourite, but a team that everyone's really, really excited to see, and that's the Aston Martin Formula One team. And we'll start with the drivers, because obviously, with regards to what happened with Sebastian Vettel last year at Ferrari, everyone's really excited to see him thrive for Aston Martin. So, Laura, what's your take on the AM F1 driver lineup?
Well, this is an exciting lineup. We've got Sebastian Vettel and Lance Stroll. Will these two work together, I think, is my question for this, because no one of them is going to want to sit behind the other at all. But saying that, is Stroll even going to be able to get up near Vettel? Because obviously Vettel's been in the Formula One for years, and he's in there trying to win his World Championship again in the Aston Martin this year. That's his goal, that's his target. But Stroll's also, I don't know, I get a stroppy teenage kind of feel from Lance Stroll, without being mean to him, to be honest. He likes to be up the top. He likes to be obviously he's put in a driver. His dad owned the team previously last year. They've changed it, changed the colours this year, which my daughter is awfully upset about, because she did like the pink. However, I think that's another thing. But I don't know if these two are going to work very well together. I'm going to be honest with you. I am very excited to see Vettel.
I don't think they've got a choice. I think they have to work together.
Yeah, they're going to have to, but yeah, I don't think they're going to like it. I think we're going to have a little bit of fighting in the team there. That is if Stroll can keep up with Vettel, because I do expect him to be the better of the two. And I would like to see him pushing forward to potentially try and win his World Championship again this year.
No, it is. It's a weird dynamic, because, I mean, knowing that Vettel and Stroll are teammates, I still can't picture it, because obviously it's almost like a different generation. Vettel, yes, he's won 4 World Championships, but given obviously the Mercedes dominance of the past 7 years now, it's almost a thing of the past. And then with Stroll, he's very young. I think he's the youngest ever podium sitter. I think he might be the youngest pole sitter. He probably he should have won a race last year. He should have won in Monza. He probably shouldn't have let Perez overtake him in Sakir. So he could be a 2-time race winner. And obviously, it is a really weird dynamic. And obviously with Lance Stroll, I know we mentioned earlier about the pay 2 drivers, but he is probably, in my opinion, one of the very few who's actually proved himself.
I think he has now. Yeah.
100%,
especially with that pole last season. I know obviously he did drop down the order during that race, but he put the car on pole in terrible conditions. And I do say that the rain really shows who the better drivers are. But no, looking at the livery, I personally, this is my favourite livery.
It's British Racing Green.
It's a British green. I love the red trim on it as well. Many F1 fans never got to see Aston Martin in Formula One, obviously 60 years ago. But I think a lot of people kind of feel a connection with the team already, whether that's through the British Racing Green, whether it's through the fact they're based at Silverstone.
Who makes the engine for this car?
Mercedes.
That's the thing, isn't it? Is it Aston Martin or is it a name?
Yeah.
What have we got that's British, apart from the name and the colour? Really? Because we haven't got British drivers.
He's Canadian, isn't he? Is he Canadian?
Yeah, Canadian.
We can borrow that one. Greg Rosetsky was Canadian.
I'm not sure he'll see it the same.
Lennox Lewis, he was Canadian as well, but he was really English. We're allowed to do these things.
It's really weird because obviously you say, obviously, I saw, and I'm sure many listeners and many people out there saw the article that Aston Martin actually was spending more money to have their name on that Red Bull car than they have on their own team. So, and I think with a Mercedes engine, I think they could really progress. And obviously,
they're going to do well. I mean, I definitely think they'll do well. I think Vettel completely gave up last season. He did give up. Like, he could have made their finishes a lot higher in the latter part of the season, I think. And I think this season you'll see him. I reckon top 5 Vettel. I think if the car's good, which I think it sounds like it is, top 5. I think.
I want to see Vettel keeping his cool this year because I think he's an incredible driver and he's proved that with his track record. But at the end of the day, he makes silly mistakes, and when he's under that pressure, he makes stupid mistakes.
I feel sorry for the man. Actually, did anyone see the tweet of him? 2 or 3 weeks ago with no hair.
I did. I think it's a hair transplant thing, if I'm being honest.
I think they were mocking him, saying, "Look what Ferrari have done to Sebastian Vettel and that." But that's not fair, is it?
Yeah, there's no need. There's no need.
I don't think it was very fair to say that. But
there was no need. But no, I think we can all agree we're really excited to see Aston Martin because
definitely
Mercedes engine, Sebastian Vettel. You know what? I don't think they'll win the World Championship, but I think I think they could.
Well, they're going to want to come in with a bang, aren't they? They're going to want to, like, after 60 years, they want their place in Formula One. So they've got to have some punch behind that car, and they've got 2 fantastic drivers to go with it. So it'll be very, very exciting to see them on the track this year.
Definitely. Then obviously, if they're going to move up the grid, that means that McLaren F1 will probably have to move down, and I don't see that happening. Obviously, I'll come to you first, Laura. McLaren F1, what are your thoughts on the livery? Obviously, the orange and the blue design.
It's very similar, isn't it? There's not much change there. Very similar there. They've integrated the Mercedes engine to it as well, and they've had to use all their design tokens to be able to integrate that engine with it into their bodywork. So they've used all of that in integrating that engine. So they've not had other areas of development where other teams may have, but then again, they have got Mercedes engines. So how are they going to do with that? So yeah, there's a lot more going underneath, but it looks fairly similar to the eye immediately.
No, and then obviously Grant, Daniel Ricciardo, Lando Norris, everyone's excited about this. What do you think of this driver lineup?
I've read an interesting article actually written by a man called James Keys, he helps driver relations in McLaren, and he's all about getting the team to share each other's secrets, and that's why they come third last season. I mean, if they continue to do that this season, I think third's probably they got a bit lucky. I think, but fourth, I mean, I could see him coming fourth. I just think it is about these 2 drivers and how they both react around each other. I mean, like Norris is only a young lad; he could be influenced a little bit by the older head. And I mean, to be honest, I've listened to him talking. He's a very easygoing young man, and I could see him get on with everyone. So I can't see why James Key's idea of this help the driver development share each other's secrets in corners and technical things, then I think they'll be all right. I honestly do.
No, and it is. I mean, last year, I personally, I don't know if you guys agree, I don't think they were the third fastest car on the grid. I think the Racing Point was faster than them, but they finished third in the championship. So,
yeah, it's consistency in the end, isn't it? So
it is, yeah. They always got the car up there. I mean, it's quite right from the first race in Austria when Lando put the car obviously on the podium. The week after, Carlos gets the fastest lap, and it's like, I mean, they could have won in Monza. They could have maybe had one or two more podiums, but they're always in and about. Predicting them this year is a weird one. I think if obviously Danny, everyone's always said he's a future world champion. I kind of feel like that's wearing off now. I think he's everyone's favourite driver. My favourite driver.
He's just a lovely guy. His personality is nice. We want to hear from him.
No, we do, and I think with a Mercedes power unit, I think if he has a good season, I think he could be a dark horse. But then again, at the same time, I don't worry, but I kind of feel like obviously the opportunities last year presented by obviously the Red Bull second driver sometimes not being in and around gave opportunities for Daniel, for Esteban, for Pierre Gasly, for Lance Stroll, gave all of them opportunities to get on the podium. Because if Hamilton, Bottas, or Verstappen, if it wasn't one of them three, someone was jumping in. And I feel like this year, with obviously Sergio Perez being a much more established driver than Alex Albon, I kind of feel like opportunities aren't going to be as common for Daniel Ricciardo and Lando Norris. But then again, I think McLaren are going to want to kick on. They've got the Mercedes engine. I don't know if they're going to be able to kick on competing against Aston Martin and Ferrari, of course. So I think fourth would be a good position. Fourth would be good. But then again, you've got a Mercedes power unit. You've got good drivers. They're going to want to push Red Bull, and that just bring us on to the team.
Well, talking about just before you move on with it, considering we're talking about the Mercedes power unit for the McLaren, I quote from McLaren in 27: "There is no good reason to copy Mercedes." But what have they done this year?
Yeah, they have. But I know it sounds bad, but you can't blame them in one sense.
You can't beat them, join them.
We saw the pink Mercedes last year. We've got the orange. We might have the orange or the green Mercedes this year. I don't know. And then with Red Bull, Grant, I know we spoke prior to pod, and you said you really like their livery. What are your thoughts on their livery?
Yeah, I've always liked it. I know it's the same thing. It always is, but I've always liked it. It's a nice matte finish, and they've moved the ball slightly around the nose. I mean, it's no big change from last year. It really isn't. But I've just always genuinely liked the car. I mean, I don't even drink Red Bull. I just don't like energy drink. But I think as a car to look at, and when it's racing, it goes round corners and that, it just looks good. It does. Every angle, it's so well designed. Like, I just love it.
No, I've always been a Rich Energy fan, but the Red Bull of 2010 with Sebastian Vettel when he crossed the line in Abu Dhabi, and obviously got Christian Horner. You are the world champion. That car is just
the nose was too high for me. I couldn't deal with the high noses.
Yeah, it was, but that car was an iconic car. And looking at the drivers this year, you've got Max Verstappen. He's been a future world champion for what feels like an eternity at this point, but he is still probably the second best driver on the grid behind Hamilton. But he's got it in there. And then you've got Sergio Perez, and I for one, I'm sure many people are. I'm really excited. I know he had an opportunity at McLaren quite some time ago at the start of his career. The car was on the way down when he was there. And obviously since then, he's obviously spent a lot of time at Racing Point. I believe he was at Sauber for a brief period in his career as well. And he's, until the back end of last season, he's never really had a car with podium potential. And all of a sudden, he put the car on the podium, I think it was twice, and obviously winning a race. So,
yeah, but then he had the Mercedes power unit last year in the Racing Point, didn't he? So, and he's a great driver, and I get that as well. But how is he going to cope in the Red Bull? Because the Red Bull have taken down other drivers quite consistently over the year. There's only Max that seems to be able to drive it.
Red Bull is Max, though, isn't it? At the minute, let's be honest. It is. So I think he's there to be a good backup, and obviously use team tactics and try and play around with it a little bit, and have a car that's possibly going to be sitting in third or fourth that they can do something with a pit stop.
I think
that task, he'll be there for a long time. He'll be like Rubens Barrichello at Ferrari. As long as he does his told, he'll have a job for life.
Yeah, and he's got to be, as long as he can put that car fourth every weekend, unless something happens to the top three.
If he can sneak a second or third here and there as well, it's
I think
He's a
he'll win
fourth.
race.
You're right. It's fourth. I never really looked at it, but yeah, fourth is what he's aiming.
I think he'll win a race. I think I'm just going to throw an early season prediction out. If we race in Monaco or Baku on one of the street circuits, I think they're going to be the opportunities for him. And I'd love to see him win a race for Red Bull. But no, it is a weird one. I just hope he succeeds, because I was thinking this earlier, thinking if he doesn't succeed in that car, yes, he'll probably get a seat elsewhere. But if he doesn't succeed, what do Red Bull do next? Because
this is the
I reckon
interesting
they'll put
thing.
Hamilton in the seat next to Max and watch them go in Red Bull. That would be hilarious to watch that.
I look at it and I think then I don't think they're ever going to put Pierre Gasly back in that car. I don't think Alex Albon's going to get another opportunity.
I think he's in a win-win situation. You've been given a semi-championship winning car that you haven't got to win a race in. Like, you think about it, he hasn't got to win a race because it's all about Max.
Yeah.
So he's in a car that's good enough to win a race, but if he doesn't, he's not going to come off bad.
But he's got to stay close enough to Max to justify his seat, just like the other two drivers before him couldn't really do.
Yeah,
so it's whether he can actually do it in that car, because the driver talent is always there, and it's been there with Gasly, it's been there with Albon. They have got the talent, but they just cannot get used to that Red Bull, and that's all. It's been a struggle for a lot of people.
It's the G-balls in the corners. It can half whip it, doesn't it? It sticks.
Even when you play it on the Formula One racing game, and I drive the Red Bull on the Formula One racing game, that car feels so much different, and that is not me driving it physically because I'm not a racing driver, but it feels so different to the other cars. It skirts along the surface, and it doesn't stick like some of the other cars, and you've got to be able to drive it in that way, and that's where Max gets his driving skill from. He does that driving, and he does it really, really well, but we just need another driver who can do that, not match him on it, but do that as well, and stay up towards the fourth place behind Max.
No, then Laura, just a sort of a final question on Red Bull. I know it's a weird one because I kind of feel like second is all they're going to do, but where do you think they'll end up?
Do you know what? I think they're going to start pushing Mercedes a little bit more this year. So they've got the new engine, and they have got the 2022 updates as well, because it's Honda's last year.
Have they got DAS?
They've got that. They haven't got DAS, not that I'm aware of. But then I don't know if Mercedes are using DAS, because they didn't end up using it so much last year. It was only behind the safety cars that they ended up using it, because it wasn't worth their while during the race. But it'd be great. Max is obviously going to be on fire. This is his year, and this is how he's approaching it. So it would be nice to see Max up there battling with Lewis Hamilton, because we don't want to see the flat wins anymore, because it doesn't make for good racing. So we do want to see him up there. Perez is an incredible driver, but like I said, how is he going to cope in the Red Bull? But one thing on the livery of the car, has anyone seen any photos of the rear of the Red Bull? Because from my calculations, there's been none released. So what are they hiding?
They're keeping it very close to their chest, and
they are. Yeah, there's something in there.
The triple diffuser.
well,
we'll see what they come out with, but yeah, and we need to see them pushing Mercedes a little bit more this year, and I hope that we will see it. They've got a brand new gearbox in there as well, so yeah, good luck to Red Bull. It'd be interesting to see them when they're on the track.
When they come second.
Yeah, I agree with. I think second's successful. Obviously, they overtook Ferrari last year, although most of the grid did. But no, yeah, and they will fly to the team that have dominated Formula One for my entire time as a fan, and I'm sure they've dominated many people's experience of Formula One, and that is Mercedes F1 team. Now, I'll start with the livery. I'm glad they kept it black. I liked the movement. I liked the idea behind it. Yes, there were silver arrows, but I do really like what it stands for, what it represents. The thing I don't like is the fact they've written AMG all over it.
They had to do that though, didn't they? Because I think a lot of people looking at Formula One were like, "Oh, it's that silver car winning again." Yeah, so I think when someone turns over, like, "Oh, hang on, there's a black car winning now. We'll have a little look at this," and they'll go, "Oh, it's Lewis Hamilton."
Yeah,
I think they needed to change it because it was getting a little bit samey. If that makes sense.
I do. I really like they've kept it. I don't think many people expected them to go back to silver. It will be interesting to see.
It's nice. It's going to overheat. Yeah. It's going to overheat like a git.
It'll be really interesting to see what happens, and I don't mean this in a bad way, but when Lewis Hamilton does leave, which many people might think might be this season or next season, will they revert back? I mean, that's going to be interesting to see. But on obviously Lewis Hamilton, Laura, what are your opinions on the drivers for Mercedes, the unchanged lineup?
Wow, is he going for his 8th World Championship this year? And this is what he's hoping for. He's got a 1-year contract. which is usually the Bottas special, isn't it? The 1-year contracts. But Hamilton's got one this year because, like Toto said, there was no time for them to discuss the intricacies of what they wanted in the long run. So that's what's been released to us, but we don't really know what's been said behind the scenes. That's all speculation. I want to see Lewis excited about his driving again. There was a couple of races last year where he won, and he came and when he spoke to the commentators about his race, he was excited again. He was buzzing that he'd won that race because he'd fought for it. And the problem is he seems so bored out at the front at the moment for the majority of the races because he's just winning.
I can't believe you're saying that. That's a surprise.
He wins, and if there's no battle up the front, what are you a racing driver for? You're a racing driver to battle, aren't you? And that's why you get into the sport, and you like a good fight. Yeah,
you're racing, driving to race, and there's no race there. But I don't think he comes off of there. He never looked disinterested in the conversations after a race.
I know, but I think the conversation swayed in different directions, and I understand what.
Away from Formula One, it did.
Yeah, supporting every year, and that's fantastic that he's supporting those causes as well. But I want to see that pure excitement come from him when he's won those races, and he talks you through his strategy and what he decided to do, and because he's got that pure passion there, and it's fantastic listening to him when he does talk about that. But then at the same time, how's Lewis going to do? Because last year on the testing with the new tyres, he hated them. They didn't work with the Mercedes. He absolutely hated them. And he made that very, very clear. And he's made it clear quite a few times that he's not sure how he's going to do on the new tyres. So we'll see what that happens with that. But we got Bottas as well. And he is an incredible driver. And I think he's so underrated. And I think it's so unfair for him. He qualifies first for a lot of the times. He's matching Lewis's lap times for a lot of it. He can stay out the front. I think the only problem that Bottas has that if he's not out the front, as in i.e. he's overtaken, if he's second, he starts falling back. It's almost like that little bit of drive goes away once that happens to him.
That car's no good at following. I think that's not him. That Mercedes is no good. It's no good at following anything.
But at the same time, Hamilton can follow and overtake as well, and he can still make his way from the back of the track up to the start. So I want to see Bottas doing that a little bit more, and I don't want to see him sort of like dropping back. They are a fantastic 1-2, and look where they've put Mercedes with the Constructors Championship, because they are constantly there together. They're a solid team. They've got a solid car, and interested to see them going forward again this year.
I'll just put in there, obviously, what Laura and Grant, what you just said about that car not being very good at overtaking or following. The last 20, 30 laps of the Sakir Grand Prix, George Russell pit stop failure, Valtteri Bottas, yes, the pit stop wasn't great, but Valtteri Bottas couldn't really overtake it. George Russell has overtaken all of them pretty much twice. I know obviously he finished behind Bottas, but he showed that, yes, it's not Hamilton.
What an incredible race that was.
Yeah, but
so it is the car. It's just car number 2. It's
yeah. Well, Grant, obviously predictions. I'll ask you a bold question first, and then I'd love for you to elaborate. Firstly, Mercedes, will they finish first? And secondly, why?
Well, yeah, I think they will. Why? Just purely because it's the better car. I don't know. There is no other reason why they've run it so many times. And I think you're right about Red Bull catching them up a little bit, but again, they are just.
No, brilliant.
They've paused any changes to this year's car, didn't they? And they've put everything into 2022. But then everyone's paused a lot of things this year, aside from Ferrari, really, who have done a hell of a lot more to get their car back up. But yeah, they've sort of paused. So I can see them stalling very slightly. I still think they're going to be well up the top, but I do think Red Bull are going to be very, very close up the back of them this year.
No, I do hope so. And then just before we do get on to our final few quickfire questions, I've got a question. All I want is 2 names. I don't want any explanation. Who will be driving the Mercedes car for the 2022 season? Just 2 driver names. Grant, we'll start with you. Who are your 2 drivers in that car next season?
Obvious, George Russell, I think, and probably Lewis Hamilton, only because of the technology advances that he's aware of. He's not going to want to walk away from that car.
No, fantastic. Laura, 2 drivers for next season for Mercedes. Who do you think?
I think Lewis Hamilton will sign again, and I think George Russell will. And I think Lewis Hamilton will only stay if George Russell is in there, because I think he'll be training him up.
I've got not a weird prediction, but a little bit different. I think George Russell. I also think Esteban Ocon.
Okay.
The reason why I know I said I won't explain, but I feel like I do need to explain. But
We have anyway, so crack on.
Yeah, I think so. I think Lewis Hamilton, if he wins the 8th World Championship, I think he's happy. I don't think anyone's ever going to hit 8 again. I mean, yes, I'm sure in 20, 30 years' time someone might, but I think he'll be happy with 8. He'll have broken all the records. I think Mercedes is going to go, look, let's fresh it up. Bottas, yes, he's done well. I don't think Bottas is ever going to win a world championship. He's a good driver and he's a very lovely bloke as it comes across. But I think they're going to go, let's put all our effort into George Russell and then let's look at who is the best number 2 Mercedes driver for next season. And to me, Esteban Ocon, as I said earlier, is Mercedes Junior. He can be a number 2. He's been a number 2 to Daniel Ricciardo. He can pull results out of the bag. And it sounds really bad, but he'll be cheap. Obviously, Hamilton's got a massive contract at the moment. I don't know if you two saw back end of last year when the F1 driver earnings were released, but George Russell and Esteban Ocon weren't very high up. Obviously, Russell unsurprising, but I think that's going to be the line next year. I think I'm probably wrong, but I think that will be it. I
can see where you're coming from with it. Yeah, I can see where you're coming from with it. I just don't know whether Mercedes would go for 2 new drivers in 1 year, especially with all of the vehicle changes next year and all the car changes.
It is a big risk with Red Bull, Ferrari, McLaren, Aston Martin, Alpine, all there to breathe down their necks if they mess up. But no. So we asked, I've got 4 questions. We asked prior to the podcast in different Facebook groups. Thank you to everyone who voted. 2 of the questions were very, very heavy on the answers, and 2 of the questions promoted quite a few answers. So I'll ask the guys on the pod. All I want is a name, and then I'll give what the viewers said. So the Drivers' World Champion for 2021, Laura, who have you got?
It's Lewis for me. He's got to get his 8th this year. Let's get out of the way and let's get someone else in there, shall we?
And Grant, who do you think?
Yeah, it's obviously the same. I just can't see any.
I also agree. And when we put the vote out on Facebook, Lewis had more votes than everyone else put together. We had over 100 votes, and Lewis had more than everyone put together. I think the exact number was around the 60 mark. So Lewis is everyone's pick. Unsurprising. He's the bookie's favourite. He's a fan's main choice. And then obviously with that, the Constructors' World Champion. When I asked for fans or when I asked people via Facebook, it was only 60% of the vote went with Mercedes, but I do feel like a lot of people are hoping for Red Bull or hoping for Aston Martin. But Mercedes will win that poll. I'll start off. I think Mercedes will win the Constructors' World Championship. Grant, what are your thoughts on that?
I think I'm hoping Red Bull. I think they get an act together on their second driver and get them extra points they need.
Fantastic. And Laura?
I think they've still got the solid team, Mercedes. They've got their same lineup again this year, so definitely I think Mercedes again this year.
Fantastic. And then the third question I put out, this was a very popular poll. I only uploaded one this morning. I actually put 2 polls on 2 separate pages for this one, and one this morning. It received over 250 votes in the space of 2 hours, which is really, really, really good. And it was the surprise for the year / the dark horse of who's going to upset people. One of our polls was very closely contested between a few drivers, but Sergio Perez. I did ask some people in the comments because some people were putting why, and I was like, why do you think Perez? A lot of people think he'll surprise Verstappen. I hope he will too. I think it'd be really, really good for Formula One. And then in the separate poll, a lot of people went with Sebastian Vettel, and again, I can understand why. Laura, who's your dark horse, or who's your surprise driver of the year?
Mine would be Sebastian Vettel with the Aston Martin. I think he's still in the motorsport. He still wants to be here and he wants to win. And he's got a decent car behind him this year, hopefully. So, definitely. I want to see him up there. And I think he's going to be our surprise of the year.
Fantastic. And Grant, what are your thoughts?
I won't sit on the fences. I think the Russian man, Nikita Mazda, I think that's his name. I think he's going to have a few accidents and that, I think. And he'll have a major part in a few races, I think. It'll be a surprise one. Whether it be for good or bad, I do not know. But
it was in the polls we presented. A lot of people, not a lot of people, sorry, but Mazepin was getting votes. He was getting more votes than people you'd expect.
He's an unknown entity as well, isn't he, a little bit? I mean, not many people watch F2. And I just think, it'd be good to watch.
I do, yeah. And for myself, I think Daniel Ricciardo would be a good dark horse. I think he will. I said when he signed for McLaren, and obviously when McLaren were moving to Mercedes engines, it feels like a year ago now, and I said he could be a dark horse for 2021. That was.
As long as he stops drinking from his shoe, I'll be happy to watch him on the podium. But otherwise,
there's nothing wrong with that, is there? Come on, there's nothing.
I think with McLaren, they've got a good car, they've got a good team, he's got a good teammate, he is a good driver. And they've got a Mercedes power unit. I don't think he'll win the World Championship at all, but I think I'd love to see him win a race, and I think he'll be up there. And
Leicester won the Premier League, mate. Leicester
Is
won
he
the
going to
Premier
get
League.
his new team leader to get more tattoos again this year?
he will. I'm sure Zach Brown would love.
I'm sure there's some sort of bet.
There will be. But then the final question I asked, it was a bit of a weird one. I had a few people questioning as to why we're asking this. I had a few people being intrigued by the answers, and it was, who do you think will finish last in the Constructors' Championship? Haas F1 team had over 80% of the vote. Now, from reading comments, I don't know if that's people obviously responding to the role that Nikita Mazda has played in pre-season. It might be because they're not developing the car. I don't know. It might be because of delivery, but a lot of people think Haas will finish bottom. And if I'm being entirely honest, I would agree. I think Haas will finish 10th this year. Laura, throw to you.
I agree. Yeah, for me, Haas are at the bottom this year. Yeah, definitely. They haven't done the stuff on the car this year. And they've got for me, there's no point explaining it. For me, Haas at the bottom this year, unfortunately for them.
And then Grant,
I just don't want to be the same. I'm going to say Alfa Romeo just to be a bit different.
I think they could be, and
I don't think they're going to do anything a bit special. I've got a little question for you actually. Before testing takes place, who do you think is going to sit on pole on the Bahrain Grand Prix?
Oh,
Valtteri Bottas.
I'll have a Red Bull. I don't know what one.
Laura,
I reckon Max will give a good run for that one. I'm going to go Max. It takes a little while for Lewis Hamilton to kick into gear sometimes. So, yeah, I'm going to go for Max for that one.
And then watch how predictions change after we've seen testing.
Yeah, well,
watch us be so wrong.
A good question now. Obviously, our next podcast will most likely be a review of the Bahrain Grand Prix, and it'd be lovely to come back to this. Obviously, we've got our pole prediction. I think Bottas will win the first race. What do you two think? Who's going to be the race winner?
A Red Bull. I can see a Red Bull doing well first race.
I can see Max Verstappen winning in
they
Bahrain.
Normally do. They normally start well. They've had a good winter period and stuff. So yeah, it'll be interesting. I think is it testing is on Thursday? Is that right? Is it
Thursday at 6:30 a.m. I think.
3-day testing. Only 3 days.
On Thursday,
Friday, Saturday, and then obviously season kicks off. We've got Drive to Survive, which I'm looking forward to. I'm sure many people are, and then season kicking off. So it's going to be a really exciting few weeks.
Would you not fancy a recap on Sunday for half an hour on testing? Because I will watch it.
I think it'll be fantastic to do a post-testing pre-race season pod. So what we'll do now, obviously, while we're still live, this podcast will be dropping this week. The first from the F1 Pitcast group. Obviously, we really hope people enjoy it. We are really welcome for feedback. We'd love for people to message us to get involved. And obviously, as Grant's just alluded to, it'd be fantastic to do a post-testing pod, just as a quick reaction. So that's going to be coming out sometime next week. But thank you very, very much for listening to the pod. We hope you have a wonderful day and best of luck, everything. And we will speak to you all soon. Thank you very much, guys, and have a lovely time.
Thank you.